Regular October meeting of the Stratford Town Council. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending. We have a fairly full agenda tonight, so we'll get right into it. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that the land upon which we gather is the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, and we pay our respects to the Indigenous Mi'kmaq people of this territory, past, present, and future. The second item on the agenda is a declaration of conflict of interest. So if any councillor or anyone involved in this discussion tonight has any conflict of interest in any of the items that we'll be discussing, please declare so now. If not, we'll move on to item number 3, approval of the agenda. And I will, if everyone's had a chance to look at the agenda, I'll ask for a motion for approval of the agenda, unless there are additions, deletions, or changes to the order.
So moved.
Thank you.
And I'll second it.
Second? You second? Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. We'll now look at the minutes of our regular monthly meeting of the 8th of September 2021. Does anyone have any revisions, notice any omissions, or anything that's incorrect in those minutes? Any changes that anyone would like to see made to those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Okay, the next item is business arising from the minutes. Is there anything in those minutes that we will not be covering tonight that anyone would like to follow up on? Anything? I think we're going to be covering most of the items, or no loose ends. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, presentations from the floor. Robert, are there any presentations from the floor this evening? No? Okay. We'll now move on to my report. It's in your package. Just a couple of highlights. There's been some really good work done by our sustainability coordinator, Maddie Crowell, who worked with UPEI, and I'm not sure, Maddie's not here, is she? To make sure that we did whatever we could to mitigate, prevent and mitigate erosion along our shorefront. And so I got to look at the results of that work. It's really well done. We, with several councillors and staff, we toured the Reach Foundation building. I think that was a great tour. They do some really good work there, help youth in recovery from addictions. So I think that was time well spent to look at the work they do and to really gain an appreciation for the results of that work and how much it means to our community. We had some discussions about our involvement in the Canada Games, and that's an ongoing discussion. And I guess as part of the recreation report, I'll look for an update to that discussion, see if there's been any further developments. We looked at the statements, financial statements for last year. Everything looks really good. I compliment Chair of Finance, Councillor Gail MacDonald, and the Chair of Finance, Kim O'Connell, or not the Director of Finance, Kim O'Connell, for the work they did there to make sure our financial statements were in good order. And I guess as a follow-up, and maybe I should ask this as part of the finance report, there hasn't been the management letter. I haven't seen the management letter yet. No. Okay, so there's nothing in the management letter. She said it's just a routine.
That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I was really pleased that so many staff and councillors come out to raise the Mi'kmaq flag on our first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation the day before. I think that was a really meaningful and really special ceremony, and I really appreciated and was honored to be part of that. Yeah, so any comments or questions on my report? Okay, if not, we'll move on to Chief Administrative Officer report, CAO Robert Hughes. I'll ask for your report.
Thank you, Your Worship. My report is in your package. I'll just highlight a couple of items. See, I didn't bring my mouse over with me. The switch program is going really well in terms of the number of people who are interested. We have, between the three communities, over 400, probably 450 or something like that now, who've expressed an interest. And we have 22, I believe, in Stratford who have actually signed agreements on it so far. And I think of the 400 that expressed an interest, at least the last numbers I saw, the majority, like the highest number was from Stratford. There's already, between the three communities, $1 million of projects out there in a short window. The biggest challenge we actually have is trying to keep up right now with the number of people who are signing up and interested in the program, which is a good problem to have. Pace Atlantic have just added 2 new staff members to help try to deal with that load. So they're trying to respond, but it has been, it was a bit of a surprise how many people were interested right out of the gate. And we really haven't had to do very much to promote it because they're just coming. So, and once it slows down, we'll start promoting it more. Attended the Grey Group Open House. I know a lot of you have also seen their presentation. And then Kevin and Blaine and I met with them to go through and try to help them figure out exactly what it is they need to apply for to make their vision and their plan a reality. What official plan and bylaw changes are needed to make that happen. So we're trying to help them out through that process so that we can get that underway and have public sessions and find out what the public think about the plan. We just want to highlight one other item. We're participating with, it's called the Municipal Natural Assets Initiative. It's a national organization that was formed out of some work that originally took place in Gibson, BC, but essentially what it is recognizing the value of natural assets in terms of the services that they provide. For example, some of our water courses actually provide stormwater retention capability. If we didn't have, we would have to build hard infrastructure to do that. Some of our natural assets actually absorb carbon and store it. So there's a number of functions that natural assets play, and this initiative is to help municipalities to inventory and recognize what those are in order to make sure that they're identified and protected. So there's actually a neat tool that they use to develop the tabletop exercise, and I'll share that with you. We'll present that to you at some point in the not too distant future just so you can see the work that they've done, but really neat little tool that they've used, basically a GIS tool that they used to do a tabletop exercise. Not only was it neat to see the work that they did, but also to kind of see some of the potential of GIS that perhaps we're not fully taken advantage of at this point in time. And the last one I'll highlight is we have received a draft of the housing demand study. The steering committee met without the consultant to go through. There's a number of, I shouldn't probably call them deficiencies, but certainly areas where we would like to see some changes, or a few areas where perhaps we don't feel they fully delivered yet on the requirements of the RFP. And before we bring that to our respective councils, we just want to make sure that they have satisfied all the requirements of the RFP. So we're working through that process right now, and we'll be meeting with the consultant in the next couple of weeks. Happy to answer questions on any of that or anything else in the report.
Robert, just on the switch program, I want to compliment you and I believe it was Madeline Crowell, the sustainability coordinator, that did the lion's share of the work on that file. Is that right?
Yeah, Maddie's looking after the day-to-day. I'm just involved in the governance part and kind of getting it set up and running, but Maddie's the one that's looking after the day-to-day, and Kim and her staff are actually also involved in making the payments to the contractors and giving Maddie the information on whether they're current or not in their utility payments.
Yeah, and I want to also point out that the majority of the participants are from Stratford, and I believe you, can you give us a few words about how the program got started? My understanding is that you and Maddie became aware of it and followed up on it. Is that correct?
It kind of, in our case, it started a number of years ago where we applied to FCM to do a pilot program to run something like this. And at that time, we called it the SPEAR program, Stratford's Program for Energy Audits and Renewables. And we got a grant from FCM, and we hired a young graduate in that field to run that pilot for us. And it was really to find out, what would it be like to deliver a program like that. And what we actually determined was there were a few issues. One was that we needed to have changes in the Act to better allow the program to happen. And the second big lesson that we learned was that it would be very difficult for the town to run the program on its own because of the uncertainty around the number of people that would sign up for it and what they would do, and the lack of expertise that we had in-house for it. And then not long after we finished our pilot program, FCM announced a new program that they got funding from the federal government for to provide funding to municipalities to develop and launch a program like what we were trying to do. So we were actually approached by, at that time, they were working with Equilibrium Engineering in Wolfville, Nova Scotia, or Kentville, Nova Scotia. We were actually approached by a couple of the principals in that, and they were looking at applying to that FCM program and trying to assemble a group of municipalities to participate. And because we had already had a stated intent, and it's actually one of our community energy plan goals is to run a program like that, we jumped on board and said, doing our due diligence, that yes, we're interested in being part of that group of municipalities. Originally, I think there were 6, and Yarmouth and Kentville were both part of it, and I think there was a third in Nova Scotia, but it ended up just being the 3. After COVID hit, some of them kind of backed out, so it ended up being Wolfville, Charlottetown, and Stratford, who joined together with what's now called Pace Atlantic, CIC, to make that application to FCM, and we were able to secure $14.2 million, $10 million in loans to give to our residents at 0% financing, and $4.2 million in grant to set the program up. So that's really allowed us to do, all the kind of starting of the program without putting the cost on the backs of the residents. We do charge a 5% admin fee to recover the kind of ongoing operating cost of the program, but the money from FCM was a fantastic way to get it up and running and build a capacity to be able to handle the program on behalf of the municipalities. So kudos to FCM and Pace Atlantic, both our partners in helping deliver it. It was a vision of ours, but they really arrived with a solution.
Well, I just want to, I think you should also pat yourself on the back too, because you and your staff showed a lot of leadership and a lot of hard work to make this happen. So I just want to make sure that's recognized.
Thank you.
Robert, in your minutes here, you have the curling club and the racquetball club. Obviously, there's ongoing discussions. I take it this is around the community campus.
Yes.
We won't get involved in the discussions, but how many other groups, are we getting phone calls about land availability up there?
Well, we have the curling folks, and then the racket folks contacted us just a few weeks ago. They applied for funding for building a center in Charlottetown, and they didn't get it. So they decided to approach us, hoping that it might fit within our vision. And Cricket Association has also contacted us, and Jeremy's just telling me before the meeting that he met with a representative of them. They're looking at an indoor facility as well. So those are the three that have formally approached us thus far, in addition to Island Gymnastics, which we're dealing with on the agenda here this evening. So yeah, there is some significant interest there, and maybe there's a way, we've been talking at staff of maybe putting together some kind of a group, including ourselves, to try to do something as a larger joint effort rather than everybody kind of doing their own thing, and see what kind of economies of scale we can achieve doing something like that. But yeah, great interest in it and great potential.
I take it this is focused on sports education for our citizens, especially the younger ones in our community?
Yeah, it'll provide for the folks from, in the gymnastics case, they take them right from toddlers right till 80 or 90 years old. So depending on what the program is, but there's going to be something there for everybody.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Right.
Just also a footnote there, I'd like to congratulate Councillor McDougall on Sustainability Bring and Switch program forward. His group,
Yep.
I mean, Darren had a lot to do with this too, including Robert and Matty and so on at the table. So it was brought up months ago, and we're on the edge about it, and say it's working out well.
Yeah, my apologies for not mentioning your name. There is credit due there. You did a lot of work as well, so thanks a lot. Okay, the next item is safety services, and I'll ask for the Chair of Safety Services, Councillor Derek Smith, to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Safety Services first meeting was held on the 20th of September 2021 after our summer break. Majority of the information that was given out at that meeting was already given to the City Town Council a week earlier. I'll update a few points. Under Citizens on Patrol, they had been provided with some those armbands that were lighting up in the nighttime, and they hand those out to walkers in the nighttime who they feel could use them. And Wendy gave us those armbands. Thank you, Wendy. Drones were discussed and as a concern, but nothing too much was done on that, just that we're made aware of it. We've had street light relocation requests. The update on the school crossing issue, which is still an ongoing concern with us, as we had an accident in the area last month, and I'll just talk about that later.
What area is that, sorry?
It was just a child, a male child, who was hit at an intersection on his bicycle. It was investigated, the child is all right, but I will discuss that in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, crosswalk request for Strawberry Hill. Everything is being worked on. The one issue under number 9, speed hump policy. That file has been worked on by Jeremy and his staff. This is a draft of that. It goes step by step about speed hump request and the installation of such items on our town streets. So it is in the draft format, it is being worked on, and I would expect that in the next couple of months it'll be coming to this council to be read into as to what we're going to do. It's a bit helter-skelter right now about speed bump request, but there is going to be a step-by-step process that we're going to get in place for that. That is pretty well it for the Safety Services meeting of 20th of September. Are there any questions? Or did I do a good job?
I'm assuming that the speed hump policy addresses both permanent and temporary, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that will be coming before the committee of the whole for discussion once it's finalized?
Yes, the due process.
Yeah.
I have one question on the RCMP contract, Councillor.
Not there yet.
Not there yet?
No.
I think
Okay.
Jeremy he just has to clarify with speed humps.
Yeah, just with regard with the speed hump policy, we had a few corrections that we had to make to the document that after the committee looked at it, and then we're going to be putting it out to the public for consultation through our website to get some feedback from the residents before we proceed, and then it'll be coming back to the committee and then to council. Just
The speed hump, and we're talking about speed humps only, we're not talking about our speed signs here, are we?
That's correct, just the speed humps, the
Permanent or
permanent and
temporary.
non-permanent ones, yeah.
Good. All right then, any more questions on safety services?
Yes,
Meeting.
Councillor Smith. I just have a question on the Rcmp contract. I know I'm just trying to understand, okay, I'm just gonna ask the question here. Just trying to understand the contract. It was signed. I know with the pay raises and the shortfall there, we were in talks with the provincial government and federal officials. Is that, all that stuff come to head there? Is that fulfilled?
Okay, probably not under safety services, but I will answer your question because the RCMP contract can be issued under the RCMP report. From my understanding, it's still ongoing, as is the police study. So we have the RCMP representative here. He can probably talk to it more than I can. But I might add that this is an internal process, the RCMP in the town, and just to let everybody know that, okay? So, go ahead.
Afternoon. Just regarding Councillor Glant's comment, yeah, I'm really not in a position to talk about or negotiate the contract. That would have to be a senior member of our staff, the CO or the crops officer or something, but I'd be more than happy to line one of them up if you folks wish to meet with someone to have those discussions, but that's not something that I'd be involved with, yeah.
And I think it's more of a requirement for information, you know, and than anything. I think that's what you're looking for,
Yeah.
Councillor Gallant, is information. So just what the latest is, and you know, we did send a letter to the, I believe, Solicitor General, Deputy Minister of Justice, Blair, and I'm not sure what, since there was an election since that, they'll have to regroup and look at the, you know, whoever, if it's the same minister, they'll probably look at it. If not, then a new minister will have to get up to speed, and we haven't got a response to that letter yet.
And I guess from my perspective, we could go two ways. Like if you wish to forward questions to me that I can look into and find answers, or if you wish to meet with someone from the RCMP, then I can coordinate something like that as well. It's totally up to you folks.
Yeah, and there's two aspects to it. One is from the policing perspective, and the other one is from the financial perspective, obviously, and it's for this fiscal year and for next fiscal year. So for next fiscal year, it'll be, we should have the information by then. I think the main concern is about the impact on this fiscal year, because we had allocated a certain amount for policing in this year's budget. So we need to know as soon as possible, you know, what the additional costs will be and how that will be handled. We have heard sort of different things that perhaps it could be spread over the next 5 years, or it could be, there could be relief from the provincial government, or there could be, I know that the smaller municipalities are getting relief from the provincial government, I understand. But I just like to know, you know, sort of where we stand and get as much information as we can,
Yeah,
so our residents will know sort of what our financial obligations are for this year and for next year
Yep.
and into the future.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Corporal, I think that our upper management should talk to your upper management. I would much rather see you on the street in a police car.
Yeah, that's
than
above my
sitting
pay
in an
grade,
office.
these
No,
decisions.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's something that the mayor and the CAO can
Yes.
meet with the CO of the province and have that discussion.
yeah, and I'd be happy to help coordinate that to happen, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And if you want to stay there, because we're going into the RCMP report next.
I have a question just before you get into the RCMP, Councillor. Jeremy, permanent speed humps, where are we with them? Did we put any in this year, and where are we at with that? And are they okay with that, the province, or could you give us a little update on I know they're working where they are.
The province has approved the procedure for putting the permanent speed humps in. There was one area where we tried to put them in the past, and there were some complaints. It was the Rosebank area. We would like to revisit that with council at some point. But we probably won't get them installed this year, permanent ones, but it is something that we want to look at once this policy is in place and we're able to get the information out to the residents, so.
Okay, thank you.
For sure.
Okay, if we have no more questions on that, we'll move on to street light reports. I think, Jeremy, we have nothing there for this week. There are something on the back burner, so to speak, but nothing to report this month. All right. We'll move into the RCMP reports. Okay, for the month, there was 24 tickets written. $3,348 in fines were issued. There were 5 traffic collisions, 2 impaired drivers, 1 off-road vehicle. The other statistics, 25 NSC checks for the month, and there's lost and found items, 5 lost items or reported missing, and all of them were returned to the owners, which was nice. We'll get into the statistics sheets next. Crimes against person, extortion or intimidation. I'm going to get the corporal to discuss that one, if you would.
Yeah, so those 2 particular incidents there are, it seems to be a bit of a new kind of online scam that's ongoing. And it's basically taking place on Facebook, and it's people from different places befriending people in PEI and creating an online relationship with them. People are exchanging sensitive information back and forth, and then they're holding that over top of them and demanding money in return, or they would send that information to loved ones or family members and so forth.
Yeah.
So it seems to be becoming more and more popular, and again, that's something that we're trying to continue to educate the public on, to be cautious of those things, but still something that takes place and happens, so.
So you are trying to educate all about the pitfalls of something like this.
Yes, and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is familiar and aware of this particular situation as well, and they have that listed on their website, and, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under 911, we only had 3 for the month, 911. That's, the calls are really down on that one, I take it?
Yeah, 911, so that's what it would have been cleared as a 911, meaning there might have been more 911 calls made, but we wouldn't classify them as a 911. They might have turned into an assault or a threats complaint or a
Okay.
mischief complaint or so forth.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's good to see.
Yeah.
Now, I understand we also had a drug incident within the town. Can you go into that without giving names and details? There was a drug raid conducted within the town of Stratford, or?
Yeah, so there was a media release sent out on that earlier this month, or maybe it was late last month. It was a joint force operation, including multiple police forces and PEI, as well as police forces outside of PEI. A lot of time, effort, and money went into it, and we ended up arresting and charging an individual here in Stratford with possession for the purpose of trafficking.
And it's still before the court, so we won't
Yes, it
comment on
is.
that.
Yeah.
And MAD program had a roadblock set up in Stratford this weekend in regards to drunk driving, did they, or?
Yeah,
Letters
so
against-
usually every Thanksgiving weekend, we have Operation Impact, which is, again, it's a multi-police force, jurisdictional, province-wide initiative where the main focus priority is to try to intercept impaired drivers, but as well, we do deal with any moving traffic violations at the same time. We partner with MAD Canada during Operation Impact. A lot of times you'll see them at the check stops with us, handing out information booklets on MAD Canada, as well as stickers and other things as well, to just try to bring awareness to the situation.
MAD Canada is a volunteering group.
Yeah, volunteer, nonprofit
I want to personally
organization.
thank you for helping them people out as
Yeah.
well. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. And the person responsible for these reports is Greg McCormick, and his name will be coming up in the next 5 minutes or so. I mentioned his name, but not in an RCMP way. Any questions for the RCMP?
I have a question. I was just wondering why Stratford wasn't involved with the MAD initiative this year. Do you happen to know?
Sorry, with the MAD initiative?
Yeah, in Stratford here.
I believe they were involved this past weekend, but outside of that, I'm not really sure. But I know they were involved in a checkpoint at some point this past weekend, over Thanksgiving weekend, as part of that Operation Impact, which is all the police forces and PEI actually are involved with that, and they kind of go to different areas in the province with the different police forces, and they were here with us with the RCMP this past weekend.
Normally, council is invited to this, so we weren't this year?
Yeah, we just would like to have a heads up. We like to get involved in this stuff too.
Sure.
So if you just let us know through email, you know.
Just depends on who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there was one in Cornwall.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I was involved with that. so.
Well, that's my thing.
It'd be hard for that policeman,
Oh, no, I was thinking when things go south, they go south.
me and Jill have problems.
Get their own uniform.
Is there any more questions in regards to policing?
I just have one question with Corporal Ludley there. Just October the month for Halloween, Corporal, any plans for the school, like visitation, education-wise, like trick-or-treating and so on? You know, we're elementary schools and schools in Stratford here, just to drop
Yep.
by and do a sit-down, talk to kids or so on?
Yep, so
Visitation?
our liaison officers have already reached out to the schools
Yeah,
about that,
yeah.
and that's something that we try to do every year, and just
Yeah.
go into the schools and have a quick conversation about some safety things on Halloween, just some tips and things to obviously keep them safe. And then, again, on Halloween, I think it fall on a Sunday?
It falls on
Sundays
Sunday,
Falls
yes.
on a Sunday this year, so it is the weekend, so it'll be another night that it'll be kind of all hands on deck. We'll have more police officers on the road than typically you would see, so just roving the areas, visibility, and just trying to make sure
Yeah.
everyone's safe, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Now, one last thing. We did have an incident with a male child being hit in an intersection. I understand that you guys were on scene. Luckily, there was a paramedic and a firefighter also on the scene, so they gave a lot of help there. But could you just briefly describe what happened there? That was on the bottom of Kinloch and Stratford Road, or?
That was at the intersection of Stratford Road and Stratford Road, or
Yes.
Keppick Road and Stratford Road
The
there,
Catholic
so.
church area.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct, yeah. And it was a young boy just trying to cross the road with his bicycle, and he was struck by a vehicle that was trying to take the turn, and didn't see him in the crosswalk. So I know the parents have been very vocal, and rightfully so in that situation. Their biggest concern was that intersection in particular is a little bit difficult. There's a lot of close encounters with not just pedestrians, but vehicle-on-vehicle accidents there as well, and they were just trying to bring that to light and hopefully see some positive changes in that area so that hopefully prevent anything in the future from happening like that.
Just for your information, the council has been made aware of that intersection for many years. It doesn't seem to be squared up to the road. It's sort of off.
It's a bit of a blind crest coming up. It's a bit super elevated turn, and if you're driving the speed limit most times, it shouldn't be much of an issue, although the times of the day with the sunlight and stuff can be glaring in people's eyes as well, which obstructs visibility and causes some issues as well. But I wouldn't say it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some type of, maybe just a little bit more, some lights or some warning signal of some sort for people as they approach that intersection, especially when someone's crossing. Yeah.
But the young man is all right. He's up and at it again, I think.
Yes, thankfully, yeah, he's fine, yeah.
Right then.
On that topic, should we put that intersection on just a review of that intersection based on this to see what upgrades we could do to make it safer for the kids? Or maybe you're already on that, Jeremy.
I know previous councils have raised that.
Yeah, I know, like, personally, my kids go through there. I know there's a lot of kids that go through there and hit the trail. And it's an odd intersection. So I do think there's probably things we can work with the province on to beef it up a little for safety at that point.
It's been brought up several times for many years since I've been here, for sure, and I know it is on the province's radar to do some corrective measures there. And I know that James Elward was also informed of the issue, and they're looking into it. And I did give the parents some information on who they should be contacting with the province to express their concerns also. But yes, definitely we've made it a concern, and it's still a concern for us, and we'll continue to discuss options for it needs to be realigned or perhaps even a roundabout there, so.
Yeah, like, I guess with that is, that's kind of like a long-term goal. It'd be nice, there's probably some quick and easy things the province, we could advocate for some quick and easy, things to be done in the meantime, because that obviously, that'll take time.
Sure.
And lots of kids fly through there in the interim. So if there was some kind of quick and easy fixes in the interim, I think that'd be good, or we can advocate for that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I can contact the traffic engineer and see if there's something we can do there. I know that we did ask to have the trees trimmed back further into the ditch at one time because it was hard to see around the corner, but certainly we can bring it up
Yeah.
with them to see if there's some simple fixes that can be done at this time.
Yeah, there's probably some easy things we can do
Sure.
in the interim. Yeah, thanks.
I believe, Jeremy, that's on the Safety Services agenda for this coming Monday.
That's correct, yes.
And there's going to be discussion of a speed sign on the Stratford Road and around that area.
There is, we're looking at a location for the speed sign for sure, yeah.
So we're going to be putting a speed sign up there so people know what their speed is.
Correct.
But it is being worked on, but not fast enough sometimes.
Yeah, and also you may want to look at making a recommendation to council about the issue of flashing lights as well. That might be a candidate intersection for such a thing as well. But if that could be included in your discussion, and then council will look for a recommendation from Safety Services for anything we need to do in terms of resolution or anything like that.
So was
But
the accident on the merge lane, or was it on the actual intersection of the road?
The
Was
child
the-
was in the crosswalk. He was coming from
But there's two
Timmins
crosswalks.
Road
Yeah.
onto the intersection, going across towards the Catholic Church,
The
and
main,
then going up the trail.
the main
And
intersection.
The main
Turning
intersection, not
left.
the merge?
Yeah.
Okay,
Turning left off the Stratford Road, on the Stratford Road.
yeah.
And you know what that intersection is like. You're looking down the street, you're looking, and there was a lot of things, and, yeah, he got hit.
Yeah, because there's kind of two. There's
There
the
is.
merge lane also, and then the cross. That, I
That's
think
right.
both of them have to be involved in whatever we do there.
So,
I personally think the quicker the better. Like, I agree with Councillor Burridge's thoughts there. I mean, the government's pretty receptive. We had Mr. Myers and Mr. Alward right now, so our own MLA here. So I think we get that out quick, and they're pretty, they've done a lot of intersections so far in Stratford, and lights and signals are pretty great now.
the file is being worked on. Okay, policing, any more questions for policing for our RCMP rep? Okay, having said that, we will move on to D, Humane Society report.
Thank you, Corporal Lutley. Thank you.
Thank you. Humane Society report is there. There's nothing outstanding unless you have any questions. I know Humane Society is right now looking for a new place, temporary place where they expand on their own building, but that does not affect us. So everything seems to be okay there. Move on to transit next. Now, we can speak about numbers as we do every month, but we should talk about our new pilot project. The new pilot project has been on the go now for about 3 weeks. It is somewhat disappointing, the results so far. It just doesn't seem to be catching on. However, I would like to state that the price of gas is going to be going up again and again and again. And we should try to educate the people what the cost of taking a motor vehicle to work, parking, gas, payments versus the transit. And we have to try to get around I've always owned a car, I'm used to a car, and try to get it back down to financial sense. Because the price of things, including groceries, are going to go up, and people are going to be looking at ways to stretch their dollars, and this is a prime example of something that we could be using. Also, the provincial government has stepped on board. They have now implemented a transit program from Surrey to Charlottetown and from Montague to Charlottetown, and that's a positive move. But the word doesn't seem to be getting out to the people about the cost savings, and that's what it's all about, cost savings. Any questions on transit? Okay. I'm just wondering if there's anything further we can do to promote it. Is there anything you can think of or anyone can think of that we could be doing? Maybe it's something that could be looked at to sort of try to get the best result we can from this. Because if we're positive that people know about it and are still choosing not to use it, then I think it's a legitimate result. But if people don't know about it, then obviously we need to make sure they do. You're correct. However, advertising the way we have been doing it doesn't seem to work because everybody's used to owning a car. However, if we can put a cost factor onto it, how much money you can save or you will save might tweak a few people's ears, because the cost is going up and it's going to keep on going up. And when the price of gas goes up, the cost of everything goes up. So if we can get to the people the cost savings that they're going to see themselves, I think that might be a way we could look at it. Versus take the bus, this is what it's going to cost you. Take the bus and this is how much money you could save by not using your own vehicle. But I'll let Jeremy take over from here.
We do have a handout that is ready to go out to the residents of those areas, and we do plan to deliver that early next week. We're just trying to round up enough staff to volunteer to do that. So, and that's going to go directly to those involved in that area. So we want to make sure that we do get the information out and we give this a fair chance to work. There has been all kinds of information gone out on our media outlets, and you know, it's on Facebook. I've seen it for several times myself. But we are going to target these areas directly with a handout. In our town talk, we did have a full-page ad when it was out several months ago. But again, our plan is to target this area with a handout. So.
We have a number of school kids using this transit system every day, and that's the ones who are close to the bus. If we can get the school kids who want to take the transit and don't live next to a bus stop, this program is for them. And it costs them nothing because we're providing that service for our students. So that information has got to get out there.
I'm glad to hear that there is a flyer going out, because I've spoken to a lot of residents, and not everybody's on Facebook. Not everybody's on the town website. So, you know, especially seniors, it's the last thing they're looking at, I guess, or most of them that I talk to is Facebook, which I found out. But I think we have to give it a fair chance. I think we can't judge it by 1 month. And I think if you go back when the transit started here back a few years ago and look at the first month that transit was here, I think you'll see the numbers were quite low, and it covered a bigger area than what we're looking at in Ward 3. And like Mr. Cassidy said, it takes time and education to get the residents to take the bus. And you're right, the gas is going up. I think I was talking to my son the other night, it's $1.65 now in Vancouver. So it's probably heading our way too. And so people might look at it and say, I'm going to try it and give it a chance. So hopefully that'll happen, but I think we have to give it a fair shake and say, let's give it some time, and hopefully it'll catch on, because once we get riders, they'll pass the word on. So hopefully it'll work.
We're not losing people. We're not staying the same with people. We are gaining people in this town.
Yes,
And we have to provide for them.
Yeah.
So, that's it for transit, unless there's any more questions. And I do want to thank the counselors and the town employees who took had their photos op for the transit the first day there for us. That's appreciated. Fire department. A few things in the fire department this month. First and foremost, congratulations, Kevin Reynolds, our new fire chief. thank you for stepping up and taking over this role. It is appreciated, and we know it's more than just going to a fire. There's a lot of work involved. The deputy chief will now be looked at, and the application for that position will be going out shortly. Under the chief's fire report, the training officer position was posted and awarded to Greg McCormick. Now, Greg McCormick is the gentleman who does our RCMP reports up every month. So not only working with the RCMP, but he's also a volunteer with the fire department and taking on the responsibility of training. Thank you, Mr. McCormick. Firefighters, there are a number of them who have received level 2 certificates. I don't know the exact number. Kevin, I had 7 to 9 the other night. Does that sound about right for level 2 certificates?
I don't have those numbers.
But there were a number of people who received that certificate?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. 4 ladders reported last month had failed inspection, and they will be taken out of service and not resold, but we have enough ladders on hand to do any job. The one incident that we had, an arm stuck in a vehicle. For information purposes, somebody was reaching down between the 2 seats to grab something, and they actually got their arm stuck. And they had to go down 911, and the fire department came and helped them out. So they do more than fires. And we will be meeting with the fire chief, deputy chief, and captains in the near future in order to discuss the future of the fire department from their point of view. Fires for the month, 5 for the month of September for the town of Stratford, which is a number again, it's nice to see. Fire calls are down. We don't know for what reason, but they're down, and that's a good thing. Any questions on the fire board? Okay, we did have a fireman married last Friday, and he and his wife had their pictures taken in around the new fire hall for their wedding album. So congratulations to them. Donovan and Sullivan, Samantha Barrett, is that correct, Kevin?
Yep.
Okay, congratulations anyway. That's my reports. Any questions on the fire board? If not, we'll move on.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Okay, we'll move on to item number 10, recreation, culture, and events. I'll ask the chair of that portfolio, Councillor Steve Gallant, to give his report.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Reports in front of you there. Committee meetings this month. The Recreation and Culture Events Committee met on September 28th. Agenda items were discussed, updates on the community campus, Waterfront park concerns, fall and winter program, and planning discussions with Canada Winter Games. Also, just want to make note, we lost a member stepped down there our last meeting, Ted Lawler, who's Teddy, so Teddy was a great asset to the Recreation Committee there, and I want to just personally just reach out and thank Kenny for all the work he's done.
Long-time member, too.
Long-time member for town of Stratford, and I had some great chats with Teddy, and Teddy brings some great influence and had some expertise and to the committee itself, right? So I want to just have a shout out there to Teddy, and want to personally thank him from myself and Jeremy and staff, and big respect. So on. The Arts and Culture Subcommittee meeting was Thursday, October 7th, 2021-22. Arts Residence programs began October 1st. Tricia McNeil Baldwin would provide the Stratford Adult Visual Art Program, and Mastea would provide the dance/movement enrichment program for grade 6 students at Stratford Elementary School. Of course, our fall programs are our programs up and going, our art club, our brush stop, preschool, story time, and arts craft. Intermediate watercolor painting classes, beginner watercolor and painting classes, drawing classes, urban sketching, and youth art classes, and life drawing beginner classes. Our youth center programs and clubs currently running for the fall session include Newspaper Club, Dungeons and Dragons Club, Leadership Committee, Youth Council, Executive Committee, Drama Club, Art Club, and Movie Nights. All these programs are open to youth members and take place in addition to drop-in times. This month, Youth Council is planning a yard sale on Saturday, October 16th at Cotton Park from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. I'm just hopefully some of the councilors, if you want to drop some stuff off there, really appreciate the support there for the yard sale. We had one last year, went over really, really well, and so anything at home that you want to get rid of, lots of home, just come on over to Cotton Park on Saturday, October 16th at 8 a.m. to 12 noon. There's probably a drop off before that, is there, Jeremy? Like a Thursday, Friday? Yeah.
They were pretty slick. I dropped off there last year. They all came out to the car and unloaded it. It was fantastic. It's pretty slick for anyone who wants to pull in.
Yep. The Youth Center will be hosting their annual Spooktoberfest event October 28th and 30th in Cotton Park. This year, the event will include a trick-or-treat trail, haunted trails, Spooktoberfest 50-50 draw, and a home decoration contest. The event will be a little different than past years, as there will be strict COVID restrictions, including social distancing, spacing of groups, masking, and vaccine passports for anyone 12 years in age and over if they wish to participate. The events, unfortunately, Fall Fest was planned for September 24th, 26th at Fulton's Creek Conservation Park and Robert Cotton Park were canceled due to COVID-related concerns. The town was hoping to have offered a community event for the first time in 16 months. We now look forward to healthier days when full-fledged community events can resume. The town at this moment is working on appropriate Remembrance Day ceremonies for November 11th. It has been yet to be determined what the service will look like, but discussions continue with the Legions and other island communities as to what will be permitted to take place on November 11th. The programs, the Stratford Town Center has become a busy destination since the end of summer. Program in the gymnasium is essentially being offered daily from opening to closing. To date, 2021, 1,762 participants have been involved in town-operated preschool, youth, and adult programs. The popular skills and drills and instructional hockey program started on October 9th with 25 youth registered. Generally, more kids are registered as the fall turns into winter. This on October 30th, we're going to have the first ever Stratford Center Disc Golf Tournament. Will be taking place on October 30th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. The Night 9 tournament is put on the island by the Island Disc Company, Go PEI, and Town of Stratford. Participants will play a 9-hole disc golf tournament in the dark using glowing sticks. And of course, our Vax Pass is up and going now. We are proud to say the sport is very understanding of the recent Fast Pass mandate, has been very well received by facility guests. The Town of Stratford generally appreciates support and understanding of residents for this new provincial initiative. Sports fields have undergone some fall maintenance and will be closed until spring 2022. That's the end of my report, Bishop.
Thank you. I'd also like to recognize Ted Lawler for his, he's been a member of the Recreation Committee for as long as I can remember, even before I was involved in council. So he's been an invaluable member, so I'm really sorry to see him go, but I wish him all the best and thank him for everything that he's done for our town.
I'd just like to make a few comments. The Fullerton's Marsh used to be referred to as a hidden gem. That is no longer the case. On Sunday afternoon, I was up there was 26 cars in that parking lot. The place was full. 2 reasons: the new playground is being well utilized, and those washrooms are nice for the kids in that area. So they're using that. And people go around about people not picking up after their animals' droppings. I got a sneaky suspicion it's raccoons and foxes and stuff that are doing the job. And that's why there's droppings there, because most people have the bags and very understanding with their dogs. But yeah, you know. So no, it's a hidden gem. And I noticed the baseball fields are still being utilized by youth groups. Yes, they're used quite a bit, those baseball fields. Yeah, it's good to see that. Thanks. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If not, thank you for your report, Councillor Gallant.
couple resolutions there.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, you got resolutions there. We'll go to the resolutions then, and I'll ask you to move the first one.
Yes. Town of Stratford Resolution Number RC 003-2021, Community Campus Land Lease Request Policy. Moved by myself, whereas the Town of Stratford has purchased land for community campus to house provincial educational facilities and town recreation and culture facilities. Whereas a number of organizations have expressed an interest in locating within the community campus, and council requires an effective, transparent process to evaluate such requests. Being resolved that detached community campus land lease request policy number 2021-RCE-01 be hereby adopted. This resolution bears a recommendation of the Recreation, Culture and Events Committee from the meeting held on September 28th, 2021.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, discussion. First of all, maybe we could have a quick recap of what the land lease request policy is, just a synopsis, if perhaps if a staff member could give us, Jeremy or Robert could give us a quick explanation of what this is. I'd appreciate it for the people out viewing this online.
Sure. As everybody's aware, the town has purchased 170 odd acres for the purpose of having a community campus. And with that, the town does bear some responsibility in establishing indoor and outdoor facilities for sport and recreation. Along with that, we've had several requests from outside organizations that are likewise involved with sport and recreation that would like to establish their programs within our community, and have offered or expressed an interest in sharing some of the financial burden or responsibility in establishing facilities on their own and operating those facilities. And with that, we've done some research on best ways of establishing policies so that this can be safeguarded and our community interests are safeguarded, so to speak. And we established the land lease policy in regards to community campus.
Can you just briefly explain what the land lease policy is?
Yeah, sure. As organizations approach the town, expressed an interest to be located within our community, as long as the policy essentially establishes a criteria to lease the land for a set period of time for a fixed amount. And with that, they can establish that their programs are in the best interest of the community. They bring some sort of financial kickback to the community, and where while participants are participating in sports, they could be those with them. It could be shopping or visiting our local establishments, and there's a financial opportunity there to for our business sector. I'm not sure what else, Robert, if I'm missing anything, but I think there's an overall, it's a positive situation for the sporting organization and also for the town as well.
Yeah, and we view it as an investment more than an expenditure of taxpayer money or giving land. We lease it, we retain ownership, and if anything ever changes with the organization that's leasing it, the land reverts, and all the buildings on it revert, and all the property on it reverts back to the town. So it is a sort of, as we see it, a win-win situation for both the organization and for the town and for the residents, because it makes that facility available to the residents for their use, which they wouldn't otherwise have.
Absolutely.
And it also safeguards the every eventuality in case anything changes with regard to the mandate or the sports organization itself. So
That's correct.
yeah.
I think-
No, I appreciate it. Thanks.
I think for this is the policy, so like a lot of that is in the land lease agreement that we would have, right? But this policy is that we're discussing now is about how we decide what community facilities are best fit for the
You're
campus,
correct.
as opposed to the land lease. So I think there's good stuff in here. I like G, the future proofing, designing facilities in ways that enable them to be adapted, developed, because I do think that this is going to grow over time. I think there's some really good pieces in here. And because it is going to be a tough thing to identify. Once you get the schools and the fields that we've identified as needs, once you start, I should say school, I shouldn't say schools, schools is wishful thinking, but school and the fields that we need, there, honestly, there's not a lot of land left in, like, I mean, we have saved a big space for an indoor recreational facility. You know, so I think it is, I think the way it's been laid out has been really well done, and consideration given to flexibility, adaption over, you know, a long life. And I think that's key in the town of Stratford right now.
Any other discussion?
Just, is this something now that, like we mentioned earlier, the racquetball is the first I heard of that, and curling, we've been talking for that. Would they be looking for the same type of lease, or?
So they would have to, their facilities, and I shouldn't step in because there's people here that know more about it than I do, but I think all of that would be run through this policy.
Yeah.
They have to, in our eyes, fit this, right?
So it has to be
Yeah.
nonprofit?
It doesn't have to be not-for-profit.
I think as Councillor Burridge pointed out, one of the difficulties is going to be choosing which is, you know, if there's only a certain amount of land available and we have more demand than there is land, then we'll have to look at what the residents really need the most, and what is in the best interest of the town, based on the criteria that's laid out here.
I think too, there's a point in here about, like, you know, is there potential for co-location and integration with other community facilities? And that's going to be a big, I think that's big, being able to, so that, I think we discussed this, or I think earlier tonight, about, you know, not everyone coming in and building their own building with their own, making sure that we can integrate facilities together. So I think that makes the most sense, and that's covered off in here, which is good.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Any other comments? Okay, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Okay, and we have another resolution, and I'll ask the Deputy Chair of the Recreation Committee, Councillor Darren McDougall, to present, to move that resolution.
Yes, Your Worship. The Town of Stratford Resolution, number RC 004-2021, publication of the community campus land lease request by Island Gymnastics Academy. Whereas Stratford has established a community campus land lease request policy, policy number 2021-RCE-01, to assist requests for land in the new Stratford community campus. And whereas the Island Gymnastics Academy has indicated its interest in leasing a parcel of land from the town of Stratford for $1 per year in the community campus for a new 16,500 square foot net zero training facility, and has submitted a request in accordance with the requirements of the community campus land lease request policy. And whereas council has reviewed the request and is amenable to leasing a 2.5 acre parcel of land in the community campus due to the positive recreational, physical, social, mental, and economic impacts to residents of Stratford of the facility being located within the town. And whereas Section 143 of the Municipal Government Act states, where a council proposes to sell, grant, transfer, or otherwise dispose of municipal land or any interest in municipal land for less than fair market value, the council shall prepare a written proposal that includes the information specified in subsection 2 and shall give notice to the public of its proposed action in the manner prescribed in the regulations. Contents of the proposal. The proposal referred to in subsection 1 shall include the following information in respect of the proposed disposition. A description of the municipal land or interest in it. B, the person or entity who is proposed to acquire the land or interest. C, the nature, if applicable, the term of the proposed disposition. D, the fair market value of the land or interest in it, and E, the consideration to be received by the municipality. Be it resolved that a notice be published in the Guardian newspaper and on the town's website with the following information. The Island Gymnastics Academy has requested that 2.5 acres of land be leased to them for 50 years for the nominal fee of $1 per year, located on the northwest corner of the campus for the purpose of constructing a training facility. The fair market value of the land is estimated to be $200,000, and the value of the leasehold interest would be less. The new facility will provide an opportunity for residents to take part in gymnastics, dance, parkour, cheerleading, and trampoline within the community. Will bring more than 1,000 people to the community per week to support local businesses, and will provide opportunities for the town to offer specific programs within the facility. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole Council from the meeting held on September 29th, 2021.
So moved?
So moved, sorry.
Okay, so do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, discussion. This is a specific implementation of the previously approved land lease policy. This is the first, I guess, use of that policy or implementation of that policy. So do we have any comments or discussion or questions?
Question, the gymnastics want 2.5 acres of land, and we said the value of the land is $200,000, is that correct?
We didn't actually have an appraisal done of the property. What we did was we estimated the value based on the known or projected infrastructure costs and the known costs of purchasing the land, and that's where we come up with the value.
Okay.
We did check with legal counsel, and we think we're okay with doing it that way, rather than spend thousands of dollars to hire somebody to do a formal appraisal of it. And the lease itself would be lower than that value because we're not outright deeding the land to them. We're just allowing them to use it for a period of time.
And now, if they lease this land from us, is there a timeline for them to put a building on site? Like, they can't sit on that land for 20 years.
Yeah, that's one of the things that council raised, that we'll put in the actual lease agreement. So this resolution tonight is just to notify the public, and the regulations in the Act actually require us to put an ad in the newspaper as well, just for transparency, because you're actually giving somebody an interest in land that's less than fair market value. So that's all we're doing tonight, is notifying the public, and then next month we'll have a lease agreement. If you know, you haven't received concerns to the point where you feel we have to change our course, then next month there'll be a lease agreement in front of you to approve for the actual, and some of those issues that we talked about, including that, and including you know, the making sure that we approve the design and those kind of things will be in the actual lease policy itself.
Okay, thank you.
So if I'm, if I'm a member of the public and I'm reading this, we don't state in there that, you know, and that would be part of the lease agreement, that I think a lot of people will say, oh, we're going to give them to them for $1. Like, it looks like you're giving it away. But if they know that the building that they construct is ours, if they ever walk away, that we own the rights of that building, I think that it makes more sense to people, but that information isn't in here. And I don't know. I don't know if that's,
We can add that
if the
to the
construct
ad.
of the future agreement, I think that that's a main piece of information that maybe the public, I don't know. What do you think? Like, as a
I
member of the
agree with
public,
you, yeah.
would you want to know that piece of information, and would that make that more palatable? I don't know, to know that, you know, we are running on this airport model of leasing a long-term lease, and the building becomes ours. I don't know.
We can put that in the ad. We put the information that's in the resolution in there to notify the public, but we can add to it based on whatever council thinks the public should or needs to know for that. So we'll make a note to add a description of the process or what we're trying to do, that we're not giving them the land, we're leasing it to them, and we will retain ownership if they don't, if they walk away or when the lease term is over.
Yeah.
We can add that to the ad.
I don't know, I think the public might find that valuable information. I don't know.
Sure.
Robert, just a question. 50 years seems like a long time. I'm just wondering how we come up with 50. That's a long time.
Yeah, it was at their request, I think, talking to their own financial people, in order for them to be able to get a mortgage to pay their portion of it. I think they were looking for, their financial folks or the bankers were saying, we'd like to see that be a long-term lease. So that's the reason. But they're building a building, right? So they want to get the full value of the building. If it was a 25-year lease, then they probably wouldn't get their value out of it, so.
Okay, any other discussion or comments?
Just to Councilor Burbridge, I agree with her on that point where it should be. We should also remember that that area is for basically sport education. There's not a factory can move in there to do widgets. It's going to have to be focused on what we want in there, and that's why we leased the land. We don't want somebody to lose their building because of financial difficulty and somebody else move in there and open up a manufacturing place.
That's right, yes. Yeah, that gives us complete control over what happens there. We want to make sure that if they do leave, that whatever use happens in there will be complementary to the campus. Absolutely. So we'll try to encompass that in a paragraph in the ad, all of that.
Any other discussion or comments? The only point I would want to make sure everybody is aware that following up what Councillor Burridge said, that it is based on a best practice that's already been established and it works well in another jurisdiction. So it does. It's based on the airport model, as you mentioned. So that's sort of the same.
Yeah, the lease, the way we're leasing, it does follow kind of that airport model. So it is tried and tested. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for different reasons. In their situation, they don't own the land. They actually have a lease themselves from the federal government. So they have to do it that way because they don't have the right to deed the land. We're doing it to protect the integrity of the campus in the future.
Okay, any other discussion or comments? Okay, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Okay, we have one more resolution for recreation, culture, and events, and this has to do with the Waterfront Plan, Waterfront Park Plan. And I'll ask
I can keep rolling if you want. I can keep rolling with it if you want.
Yeah? Is that?
Yeah.
It's up to you guys.
Okay, go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, okay, I'll
Keep rolling.
ask Deputy Chair McDougall to move this resolution.
The Town of Stratford Resolution number RC 005-2021, adoption of the Waterfront Park Plan. Whereas the Town of Stratford owns and manages over 300 acres of public park lands, including green space, trails, and parks, and whereas these public spaces and related improvements support the quality of life of Stratford residents, and the town wishes to ensure existing and future parkland improvements are designed and managed for maximum public benefits to ensure community health, safety, and continuity of services for all residents. And whereas the former wastewater treatment site and adjacent parklands and underdeveloped lands required a plan for their development, and whereas Upland Planning and Design was engaged to develop a plan for the waterfront parks and to review the zoning for the waterfront core area lands, including engaging citizens in the design to establish a community vision for future waterfront park. And whereas the resulting waterfront park plan will provide the Town of Stratford with a plan to help guide the design and development of a waterfront destination and will include a future boardwalk, active transportation connections, natural and manicured park space, and play areas, amongst many other features. Be it resolved that the attached waterfront park plan prepared by Upland Planning Design be hereby adopted. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole Council from the meeting held on September 29, 2021. So moved.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Oh, thank you, Councillor Gallant. Okay, discussion. I guess I might say that this is a really good example of public engagement and public consultation to build the best plan possible. I think we've really, council and the consultant and everyone involved, the staff, have gone above and beyond to get views of Stratford residents on what they would like to see on this waterfront park, and this is a result. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this put in place, and I think it's a great job by everybody concerned. I'm really pleased with it. Any other comments? Any
I take it this project, because of the cost, is going to be done over a number of years, not all at once, just to let the people of Stratford know what our plans are? Is that be a correct statement to make?
In the report, it actually has all the costs laid out by phase. So there's 6 phases, and it's all costed, which I think is very valuable. So the intent of this, so basically what happened is we had the public consultation, Upland consulted with stakeholders, they developed this report, there was an internal staff review, and feedback given internally back to the Upland, and then they put out this final report. So from a planning perspective, so it's from this point that from planning board we'll kind of dig into the planning section of that, right? Not everything in this report is written in stone, I guess is what I'm saying, that there's still a lot of work to do.
Yes, this is a conceptual plan. Even for the park itself, we'll get into detailed design in each of those phases, and exactly what they proposed may or may not happen depending on, council of the day and any engineering-related issues, et cetera. So it's a blueprint, or a guide, and it also contains a number of recommendations for changes to the official plan / zoning bylaw. And we have to go through a whole process of reviewing those and then presenting them to the public and then approving them. So they may or may not be exactly what's in the plan, but it gives us a point to start from. So it's and just when I'm at the mic, just for the residents who are watching, there was, Your Worship, to your point, there were over 500 residents who viewed the original pinning exercise, and over 1,000 who went and reviewed the actual 2 concept plans, and many of who have given their comments in both cases. There were like 200 comments and suggestions the first time through, and a couple of hundred people who commented on which plan they liked, and many more who viewed it. So it's a very broad engagement of the public, and I think Upland did an excellent job there in reflecting what residents wanted to see there. I might also suggest, Your Worship, while I'm here, just acknowledge Jeremy Pierce really was the one who managed this project along with Jeannie, who's our project manager, but Jeremy has really kind of led the work on this project. So I just want to acknowledge the work both of them put into it.
Yeah, it was a really good job, and I really want to express my thanks as well to them both and to everyone involved in this. I think Jeannie and Jeremy especially. So thank you very much for all your hard work on this. I think residents will really thank you, and future generations will thank you for the result of this report, of this plan. Okay. So any other comments or questions? No? Okay. Okay, I'll call for the vote. I'll wait till Deputy Mayor Clow is ready for the vote. Okay, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Okay, we'll now move on to next item, finance and technology. Ask for the chair of that committee, Councillor Gail MacDonald, to give her report.
Thank you, Your Worship. The reports are all in your package there. I have a report from the Director of Finance. I'll go over briefly. We met with the auditors and some council members as well to review the finalized statements up to March 31st of this year. Training has been completed on our new phone system here. They also prepared resolutions on the new reserves to be added to the reserve bylaw, which is coming up later in a few minutes. We also reviewed the CCBF allocations, formerly called the New Deal, and prepared a resolution for council. The finance staff are also, they've finished attending some training on the town's natural assets, and they've completed a spreadsheet for consumption and square footage for commercial customers for our utility. Staff is also working on information package for GIS requirements to classify consumption on row housing type of development. And it's also working on a long-range forecast, and they'll meet soon with Robert to review that. Staff is also working on the MCEG, which is the Municipal Capital Expenditures Grant annual funding submission. They attended a tour of the REACH Foundation in the past month, and they met with council to review presentation on Stratford to the province. Utility bills have been generated, the e-bills are now out, and the mailed bills should be in residents' hands no later by October 15th. Finance Committee met on September 21st. We discussed the PACE Atlantic program, and also we discussed the reserve capital for the Emergency Services Center and their public art policy, so those resolutions are going to come up in a few minutes. We reviewed the draft town financial statements. A short synopsis of the year noted that our cash surplus is affected by the government transfers received during the year. We have purchased $8.4 million in capital assets and increased our loan proceeds by $2.9 million, but have also paid down $2.3 million in the long-term debt. The restricted cash consists of our New Deal funding. Kim also noted that COVID has affected our budget numbers. Certain revenues and expenses were down, pertaining to rental and recreation programs and building expenditures, as our facilities were closed for a portion of the year. Development permits were also affected, as contractors were not easily obtained to complete jobs. However, our property tax revenue was over budget by approximately $105,000. The reports were reviewed by the committee, and we got a technology update from one of our committee members as well. And that was with the meeting. We had a good meeting that day. Our financial income reports are in your package as well. So basically, revenue is up by 10% year to date, and our expenses are down by 2%. Also, the Stratford utility revenue is up by 19%, and their expenses are down by about 11%. It's kind of my report, Your Worship, and I have 2 resolutions.
Okay, just one quick question about the long-term debt. I note in one of the last paragraphs about the statements, town's debt is at $6.89 million, down from $7.61 million from the previous year. But the utility, the debt has increased by $1.26 million. So do I read from that it's sort of a wash, that we're sort of in the same place with regard to our long-term debt?
Perhaps I'll let Director of Finance kind of get into the details on that one.
Okay.
If you want to say it that way, that it's a wash, yeah, the debt would be, like, we do reflect them separately, like through the different entities. So on the utility side, our debt is up a little bit, and on the town side, our town debt has decreased. The final statements actually, once they're signed, I'll send them out to all the councillors, and in the notes to the financial statements, there's a note on the long-term debt, and it breaks it out, and it'll show you exactly the 2020's numbers and 2021 numbers for the town, utility, and business park.
Yeah, so I guess for residents, the message would be that we're sort of in the same place. We haven't, even though we've got a lot more assets.
That's correct.
Our long-term debt hasn't really increased.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, please proceed with the resolutions.
Sure. Resolution number FT 001-2021, Reserve Funds Bylaw, Bylaw number 29 revised, Schedule A. Whereas Council established a Reserve Funds Bylaw, Bylaw number 29, to set reserves aside for a specific purpose by approval of Council. And whereas Schedule A of the bylaw contains the list of reserve funds that can be amended by simple resolution, and where it is desirable to amend the reserve list to include the Emergency Services Center Capital Reserve, 2021, to provide for expenditures associated with the rehabilitation or replacement of existing capital infrastructure or portions thereof to the Emergency Services Center. Public Art Reserve, 2021, to provide contributions for future public art pieces throughout the town of Stratford. The town of Stratford will contribute an amount representing 1% of the town's contribution to the total budgeted non-land costs of applicable capital projects. Applicable projects include new building construction, major additions and/or renovations to existing buildings, and significant park development projects by the town of Stratford. Road work, water sewer services, storm or sanitary sewer work, or other service work or infrastructure projects are not applicable. Be it resolved that the attached schedule, revised Schedule A to the Reserve Funds Bylaw, Bylaw number 29, dated October 13th, 2021, be hereby approved. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Finance and Technology Committee that met on September 21st, 2021. So moved.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, and I guess it's, what we're doing here is we're adding 2 new reserve funds to our existing reserve funds so that we have money allocated for future purposes or future requirements.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, any discussion or comments or questions?
Under Public Art Reserve, Stratford were to contribute the amount of representing 1%. Did we not cap that off at a certain amount?
Yes, we did, and I'm just wondering if that should be...
50,000, I think.
50, I think, 50,000.
Yeah.
50,000, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know
we
if
should
it's
have that in
necessary to
there.
have that in this particular bylaw or not, Kim?
No, I don't think you
Okay.
need it in the bylaw. We take this and we would review it to the policy that was
Right.
created by
Yeah.
the Recreation and Events Committee.
And the
Yeah.
policy has that in there.
It's 50,000.
I think I remember, and I don't know if we can add it now, but in the finance meeting, we were going to take one of these off. There was a duplicate.
I think
Was that the RCMP building reserve?
It was, yeah. So I
Yeah.
didn't, the next time that I amend it, I'll remove that because we've depleted that reserve.
Oh, okay. We can't just amend that into the resolution now? Or do you want more thought behind that?
No, that'd be fine if we do want to amend the resolution.
Yeah, I think that came up at the meeting. Yeah. So can I amend it to
Well, with the
include?
approval of the mover and the seconder, we
Okay.
can make an amendment.
Okay, you guide me through this, the Robert's rules. I was just I was wondering if we could amend it to include an omission of the RCMP building reserve, because it's obsolete now that you've built this new Emergency Services Center reserve in, right?
So we wanted to delete it rather than, we want to delete it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay with you?
Yes.
It's okay with you?
It's okay with me.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments on the amendment? Okay, so it's been moved, seconded. We'll vote on the amendment first, and then we'll vote on the resolution. I believe that's the process, is it not, Robert?
We might just want to see what Robert has to say about that. Maybe we moved too quick on that one.
No, it's okay, it's just, but if there is money still in that reserve, then
Oh,
it should be transferred out to pay for the capital or whatever.
Before we omit it.
Like you have to allocate, if you're
Yes.
closing down a reserve and there's money in it, you have to allocate it somewhere.
Yes.
So perhaps we have to look
Just
at
wait till
that if
next
it's
month.
already not
Okay,
been.
we can do that again.
So do you
then.
want to withdraw your amendment?
I'll withdraw, yeah.
Okay, so we'll just vote on the original resolution now. Any other comments or questions on the resolution?
Oh, yeah.
Any other comments or questions on the resolution? No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried.
My next resolution?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
FT 0012-2021, reallocation of Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF funds. Whereas the town of Stratford has an estimated $4,025,406 in funding from the existing 2020-2024 Canada Community Building Fund that we have not yet spent, of the estimated surplus, there is $908,093 in unallocated funding due to a change in the funding and an accumulation of interest. An estimated amount of $515,244 needs to be reallocated due to slower than anticipated development of the core area, and $430,000 due to a change in planned town center renovations. Be it resolved that the $515,244 of funding for the core area development and $430,000 for town center renovations be reallocated to the following projects that were approved in the 2021-25 capital budget as follows. $685,485 for upgrades to active transportation, $259,759 for the development of roads in the community campus. Be it further resolved that the $908,093 in unallocated funding be reallocated to the development of roads in the community campus that was approved in the 2021-25 capital budget. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole meeting on September 29th, 2021. So moved.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Who second?
Jill?
Oh,
I
thank you.
can, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Any discussion, any comments or questions on this resolution?
No, this is great. This is great, the infrastructure for the campus.
Will that work be done now sooner than later or next spring?
Likely. Robert and Jeannie are probably going to know better than I do, but if we receive the funding, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the big one.
This is dependent on our Investing in Canada infrastructure program funding that we've requested through the province to the federal government.
Yep.
So we hope to be able to hear a positive response on that soon, because this is the first building block to the whole developing the whole campus.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried.
That's my report, Your Worship.
Oh, thank you very much for your report, Councillor MacDonald. Okay, we'll now move to Planning, Development, and Heritage. I'll ask the chair of that portfolio, Councillor Jill Burridge, to give her report.
So we didn't have a meeting last month, only because we didn't have any applications actually in front of us. They're busy with a lot of permitting, and but as far as the major applications, subdivision applications and such, there's none of those that had to be brought through planning board. So I'll just give you a quick synopsis of what planning is up to. The IRAC appeal, the Red Meadows IRAC appeal, tentative dates are late November, early December. No confirmation on exactly the date, but they just asked that we keep those dates available, or to keep that window available. Stratford Honor Roll, you'll notice out front at the War Memorial, there's new installations there. And there's going to be an unveiling on November 5th for that. 2 interpretive panels will be completed and installed by this date. More to come on this, but save the date. It will be invite only under COVID, so staff are figuring that out. Development numbers, we can look at the reports here later, but to date in 2021, there's been 205 permits applied for year to date. They're still in the process of hiring a casual staff person to help with the workload. Processing times are being maintained, but it's busy. There may be some delays. Inspections are very steady, and still working to secure a contract with the local company to provide building official services if required. The subdivisions are still the same on the go. Nothing's changed there. Clearview Estates Phase 3, Grey Group, Concord Properties over off Bunbury Road, and then the Jackson Livingston subdivision on Rankin Drive. And then also Foxwoods subdivision Phase 2 at the end of Windsor. So those are kind of the ones that are active right now. And then the final copy, as discussed, of the Waterfront Plan is being received. We just adopted it. That has a lot of work in there that planning will have to look at, and planning board inside, because there was quite a planning piece in that scope of work. So that'll be a big one, and I think that's it, folks.
Okay, any comments or questions on the report, planning report?
Just in the reports here, I noticed that Brickmakers Lane and Keystone Way, that's one of those new subdivisions, is it not?
That's the Jackson Livingston subdivision
And
off
they're
Rankin.
starting to build there already.
Yeah. Oh, I thought. Oh, that was Greenway.
That's Greenway, oh yes.
Oh,
that's
that
right.
is Greenway. You're right. I'm mixing them up. That's
But
right.
I mean, he got the okay for the application, he's building already. Well, that's good to see.
Phase 1 will be complete this year.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one we didn't list. That's right. That's another active one.
Good to hear.
Yeah, I noticed around the town, there's a lot of building activity, and I'm sure planning is very busy, and I'm sure that there's lots of really positive things going on, and I appreciate all the work that everyone's doing there.
The one other thing that it's not, but it's been worked on, is the housing demand study. That does fall under planning too. That's another big one. They're in the final stages, I think, of that report. It's still in draft mode, and a lot of information in that will spill into our official plan review. So that is getting close. I think Robert had a meeting on that a week ago with the Charlottetown, Cornwall, Stratford representatives that are all partners in that particular study. So that's another one that is under the planning umbrella.
What's the overall thing? Were they looking for density, Jill?
What's that?
Looking for density, the overall plan?
I think they're more like identifying the needs. Yeah, I think they went into each community to figure out what exists and what would be, what the needs are, and the smartest way to maybe go about that. Kevin or Blaine's probably, or Robert, any of these guys can chime in, but it's quite an extensive report done by Stantec for sure.
I was reading an article today in CBC News out of Fredericton, they're building, the council approved 96 tiny homes for subdivision.
Yeah, I saw that.
They're $40,000 a piece.
Yeah.
So 96 of them approved.
Yeah, that one's kind of like, it's more than a subdivision and it's more than tiny homes. I think there's like an integrated health model. Like, I think they have health services on site, and it's kind of for vulnerable populations, I think.
Okay.
So it's quite a different project, yeah.
There is one in Charlottetown by the French School, small homes.
Small homes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I right there, Kevin? I think there's an area there with modular homes, yeah. No. Yeah.
The other thing I noticed in the report is our numbers are up from last year, but I guess that's understandable. Last year was because of COVID. There was no real activity during the summer, but it's good to see that we're rebounding now to previous levels.
Yeah, we are. It'd be interesting to see that against 2019, 2018. Kevin, you probably know. But yeah, it's significant development that's going through our planning department right now. Yeah.
We'd like to point out that other than last year, the town of Stratford has not had a down year in many, many years. It keeps on at level and growing each year with the building. And now with this new development and businesses coming to town, you're going to see this in the next 4 or 5 years. So.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you for your report, Councillor Burge. Okay, we'll now move to infrastructure. I'll ask Deputy Mayor Clow to give his report as his chair of infrastructure.
Thank you, Your Worship. We did have a meeting on September 27th, and the minutes are in your package for your viewing. I do have some memos here to pass on that, as you all know, the wastewater treatment plant decommissioning, and anyone driving by there on a daily basis can see a lot happening down there, which is great to see after all these years. And the 2 buildings have been removed from the site. The contractor has removed all the material from the GO2 bags from the site. This material was brought to a farmer's field for land application as approved by the Department of Environment. And that's those big black geo bags you see there. They're gone. The smaller cell is currently being infilled, and the larger cell should be completed within the next few weeks. General site cleanup is ongoing, so that's all good news. It's great to see that happening down there. Inflow, infiltration reduction strategy. 3 segments of sewer pipe will be rehabilitated by a cure-in-place pipe lining method. The contractor, Eastern Trenchless, will complete the work on East River Drive, Clifton Road, and Bayside Drive this fall. Sewer lift stations upgrade. 4 bids were received for the tender of Phase 1, with Landmark being the low bid. This phase would include approximately 800 meters of 4 main installed along Kinloch Road. We are awaiting confirmation of funding due to a change of scope of the project before the tender can be recommended to Council for award. Kepic Road multi-use trail work is progressing well on the project. Minor concerns that a few properties are being managed. The contractor still expected to have asphalt placed prior to the plant closing for the season. Scada system upgrades, Phase 2. Bellinger Electric Limited has completed approximately half of the upgrade work and will be fully complete by the end of the year. The dry storage building, Coles Associates, are preparing the design for the pole barn structure to be located at the maintenance building site at 21 Hollis Avenue. Construction is anticipated to begin in November. The infrastructure staff has been busy maintaining fields, grooming trails, grass cutting, bylaw complaints, inspections, water system maintenance, water sewer inspections, flushing of sanitary sewer mains. Winter equipment is being serviced, and fall and Christmas decorations and lights are being inspected and serviced and getting ready to be put out throughout the town. During the months of September, there were no major issues with the water distribution or wastewater collection system. There was a leak on the utility side of the water service on Elwood Drive, which was repaired immediately after it was reported. And there were 2 sewer backups complaints that were investigated and determined to be the issue on the property owner side of the lateral. So that's my report, Your Worship. If there's any questions?
Thank you for your report. Any questions? Comments?
I don't know if this falls under infrastructure or not, but the electric vehicle chargers that were installed, is the one down the waterfront decommissioning or something? No?
Shepherd, that's on
Oh,
Shepherd.
sorry. I just, I don't know if it falls under that. I don't think it's in working order.
There is an issue with it, but our technician, Jerry Vildert, has gone down and investigated it, and he's been speaking with the company, and it is going to be up and operational.
Okay.
He also found out that there can be a mechanism added to it so we can charge people for the usage, because it has been free for quite some time, but I know a lot of people are starting to use it down there, and the company that has the electric vehicles there is charging a lot of vehicles down there, so we may want to look at putting a way to charge people in the future on there too.
There's a lot more electrical vehicles in Stratford now,
It sure is, yeah.
like a ton.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, I just noticed it was down. Yeah, just wondering what was going on. We probably need more than we have needed in the past.
Sure, yeah, there's going to be a
Okay.
need. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Also, Councillor Clow, I'd like to compliment you on the Cotton Park. Heidi and Rosie, terrific job down there. With the entrance into the town of Stratford too, it's just, you know, and it's great to see that. I know a couple years ago we were talking about the flowers and shrubs and everything else, and everything's working beautiful. And Even Heidi has a bucket of water there for the dogs walking through the park. So anybody's free water for the dogs who come down the park, and free disposable bags, other uses. But anyways, it's a great addition to the town. That's really working good. Same with the decorations. I hope we put some decorations for Christmas out there and sort of light her up and put that behind, with all the decorations and all the work they're doing, right?
And just to further on your comments, your preliminary comments, we did get a letter from a resident who was previously critical of our work in the park, that is really praising us now for the work that's being done there. So kudos to you and to the infrastructure staff and for all the work they're doing, especially the gardener, Heidi Wood, I believe, and her staff. Yeah, it's great.
Just adding those pumpkins at the entrance there, it brings your eye over there, and it's all good stuff.
Jeremy? Oh,
Yep.
sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
I was just going to say the same thing, that Heidi's been a great addition to us. She's, today during the staff meeting, she was talking about soil testing and making sure the soil conditions were right for growing, and a lot of things that we've been looking for in the past, and the former gardener did a great job, but Heidi's brought it to a new level, and recreation staff helped with the decorations out front, and it really does look good, and kudos to her for all the work she's done since she's come on board. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
And she wants to meet everybody too. If you see her out there, she'll introduce herself and ask you, what do you do here? What do you work here or whatever? And she's putting herself out there to meet people and ask for ideas and whatever.
No, it's a great hire. It was a great hire.
Oh, it was a great hire. Great role.
All the dog walkers down there love her in Cotton Park.
No, as the town grows, and we're adding good people to do really necessary work that's been that's needed by the town and by the residents.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? The infrastructure report. Thank you for your report, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to Committee of the Whole. Anything from Committee of the Whole? No. Sustainability. Councillor Chair of Sustainability is Councillor Darren McDougall. I'll ask him to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sustainability Committee met today, and due to a work commitment, I was unable to attend. Therefore, I can't report on what went on today. My good friend and colleague, Councillor Smith, pulled all the weight there today, but what I would suggest is that he does a lot of heavy lifting there on his own portfolios. I'll suggest that I'll perhaps do a double presentation next month and present. I know that CAO Robert has indicated to me it was a good meeting today, so they had some topics that were covered and very productive. So I think what will be best suited is that I do a double whammy next month.
Sure, that'd be great.
And present from this month's meeting and follow it up with
that'd be
next month's
fine
as well.
I do want to compliment you and the whole group, everyone involved in sustainability on the work that's being done. I was really impressed, as I said earlier, about the Living Shorelines project. All the work that was done there, I think I think you mentioned it, Councillor Burge, at one point, the shoreline is our front porch. It's what people see, and the work that's done there to protect that shoreline, I think, is something that will be valued in years to come and in generations to come. They'll appreciate that work because it is preserving that shoreline for our park, and I think it's really good work. I really appreciated that. And there's also we had a tree planting day. I wasn't able to attend. I understand there were some councillors that were able to attend, and I really appreciated that. Tree Canada is a great partnership. I know Madeline Crowell has, been instrumental. I think yourself, Staff Member Pierce, Chair of our Director of Recreation. I know you were involved in that as well. So I want to thank you for the work, and please pass on my thanks to Madeline Crowell, our Sustainability Coordinator, for her work, and And you, Wendy, as well. I think you were involved as well, so.
No, I actually just want to make it clear that that was actually funding that Kinlock Home Hardware
Yes, I was gonna
obtained. Julie, you were going to say that. That Kinlock Home Hardware obtained, and they were the lead on it. So they actually approached us. So I want to make sure they get the credit because they
Oh,
deserve it.
that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, they were a huge sponsor, I forget how many trees, 100 and some trees. 100 trees, and Bruce Smith from Tree Canada was there, and a grade 5 class from Stratford Elementary. And Bruce taught the kids, like, I learned a lot, but he got down and showed them how to properly plant a tree. And the one thing he did there, there's a tree that you don't get to plant very often, very few of them, PEI, it's called an ironwood tree. And so there is one right by the playground there's only certain places, the right conditions are there, so he was pretty excited about that.
Oh, that's great, thank you. The other thing I wanted to mention, I'll get to you in a second, Councillor Smith, was the business survey that is underway right now. I know that some councillors are going to be actually physically delivering a letter explaining to try to encourage businesses to participate in that. That's a very important tool. And I guess what I would say to businesses is that we're using your money to see how we can improve things for you. So it would be really beneficial if you would participate in this survey, because it really will come back to you in better service from the town, things that we can do to help you to sustain yourselves and to prosper, and also what we can do to attract new businesses, which will improve our tax base, improve things for all residents, because we'll be able to offer more programs and services. So we will be delivering those letters, and thank you to all the councillors who agreed to deliver some of those letters. I think it's going to be, that personal contact is going to be really important to explain why we're doing this survey. Sorry, Councillor Smith, you go ahead.
Just in regards to the tree planting, I did talk to the home hardware people afterwards, and they said the students were the best bosses they ever worked for. The students are right into it, and they were telling them how to dig the holes and how to put the trees in. It's great to see. And I want to point out the members of the Sustainability Committee, our group. They're very well-read, understand, and ask very good, pointed questions on our agenda. And it gives us good insight and ideas of what we should be doing. So I really appreciate that group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Thanks again for filling in. That's it for me, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you.
Just, Your Worship, just on a side note, last Friday, I just want to mention the Stratford Watershed Group. I had an opportunity to Pondside Park. It's just a
Yes,
that
was great.
picking
Yeah.
up garbage. So
Yeah.
Mary Hughes and Connie Goody and their staff, the Watershed Group volunteers, and in behind Pondside Park, and then we worked the highway there by Finley's and Murphy's Pharmacy there, the garbage in that ditch.
I know, yeah.
But anyways, it was great to see those volunteers, and great talking to Mary and Connie, and some kids were volunteering too. And then, of course, it was led by Madeline. So I had a great talk with me and Madeline. We had a great conversation there.
Yeah.
She's great access to the town. Right?
That's
oh
great,
my God,
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so just wanted to give a shout out to the Watershed Group there.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that area, because I worked in that area, like the CWL, or the, was it, anyway, there was a group that did the cleanup in May or whatever.
Yeah,
Peggy
that's
and I
right.
worked
Yeah. Spring, yeah.
on the ditch there,
Yeah.
and we got a ton of it then, so it's built
Yeah.
up between May and October.
Yeah.
You guys got quite a bit as well, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really appreciated that. That makes the town look a lot better.
It's
All
fir-
that work that's being done by,
It's the first time I got in behind Pondside. There were some trails down there, big hemlock trees, the size of them, and beautiful in there. And it's great to see. But there wasn't much garbage around the park, which is good. I mean, everything's a garbage can, so it's good that way.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for your report, and we'll look forward to a double report next month. Thanks, Councillor McDougall. Okay, next committee is my committee, the Accountability and Engagement. I chair that committee. We had a meeting on September 16th, and was a very good meeting. We looked at a number of items. We looked at the CAO bylaw, which is developed to articulate the Municipal Government Act requirements as well as best practices for the CAO, and to create a formal process for evaluating CAO performance. So we looked at the tool that is being proposed, and received a number of good suggestions with regard to that tool or that approach to CAO evaluation. And we did a couple of in-camera items that hopefully we'll be able to release more details on at a future meeting. So I won't say anything more about those. And we did look at the engagement statistics. Perhaps it's okay if I can just mention, Robert, that we are preparing a package that we will, some highlights about Stratford that we will be presenting to outside audiences to give them information about Stratford. As well, I think we mentioned this before, a long-term forecast has been developed and is being used, and we want to make sure we've got all I's dotted and T's crossed with regard to that before we release it to the public, but we do intend to release it to the public so that you can see what the, us and future councils can see what the implications are of expenditures for capital projects in the future. And it takes into account some things like growth and that sort of thing. So that's basically the report. We did look at the website and some of the issues around that, and some of the stats from the website, how many people are using the website. Any comments or questions on my report? If not, we'll move to Human Resources, and I believe you got a couple of things to report there, Deputy Mayor Clow.
We're meeting tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Look at the resumes for the new position for the CAO. So, and we've had some previous meetings with HR. So that's all I have to report at this moment, just that we are meeting on a regular basis on this.
Okay. Any inquiries by members of council? Anything that anyone would like to inquire about that is not within the agenda?
Just for update of the public, I take it we are trying to make plans for November the 11th. Do we have any update on that, Jeremy, in regards to what we're going to be doing?
I think we're getting a little bit closer. We outlined 3 possible options. One would be a full ceremony similar to pre-COVID times. One would be a smaller, condensed, almost somewhat private ceremony that would be streamed online. And then third would be similar to what we did last year, was just a virtual component. Earlier today, we received an email saying that the Legions are working through a process right now where it would be almost created a template and they would do an online ceremony or service. We don't have the full details yet, but if that's the case, then we'll piggyback off that and try to do something here at the town hall where people can come at a established time to lay wreaths here at our monument.
So basically, Remembrance Day is not being forgotten. It's just this present situation we're in, we have to take safety for our population.
Absolutely, that's correct. And we'll do our annual, starting November 1st, we'll have the our recognition to all our veterans from our community around Town Hall here.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other inquiries by any member of council? No. Okay, we'll move on to other committees. Stratford Seniors Complex, Chair of that committee is Deputy Mayor Clow.
Thank you, Worship. We did meet yesterday, and we did have a vacant unit that is being filled November 1st. One of the things that came up at our meeting was our waiting list is getting short. It's always been quite long, at least 20 names on it, and so went through that, and calls were put out to people, and they would like to get their names taken off because they've got other places or for whatever reason. So Because of our list getting short, we are going to put an ad in the Guardian looking for applications to go on a list for the affordable housing. So that was one of the things that was discussed, and the budget for 2022 has been approved by CMHC. So that's all I have to report on that right now. It was a real good meeting, and everything's great there.
Okay, great, thank you. Any comments or questions with regard to the seniors complex?
It
If
seems
not-
counter,
sorry.
it just,
No, go
it
ahead.
just seems counterintuitive to what you, it's weird that you're advertising for affordable housing.
Yeah, and that's what it struck me, because we did have I think we had about 20 or so on the list, and it's down quite low, but a lot of calls were made that people had found other places, or, a lot of people want to be in Charlottetown, close by, for whatever reason, but before we did get a tenant, there was a number of calls made to people that were on the list that refused the request that they could go in there. So as a result of that, a lot of them wanted their names off the list. So as a result of that, the list is quite low right now, and we'd like to see more names on that. So the committee decided that we would put feelers out there and to see if we can get that list up again and get some applications in there.
Good.
And there's
Yeah.
not a real big turnover, but when it does happen, it's nice to be able to just put someone right in there.
Yeah,
And it is affordable too, so.
I know the need is there. I mean, anecdotally, when I went door to door, I know there were a lot of inquiries about affordable housing for seniors, or income-related housing for seniors, which this is. So I think you're doing the right thing by getting the word out there on social media and in the print media, et cetera, to find out if people, just to let them know about it so they can put their names forward.
Exactly.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, any appointments we'll move on to the next item. Any appointments to committees, Robert? No? No proclamations? Any other business anyone would like to bring to the table at this time? No? Okay, thank you. Call for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So moved? You move it?
Okay, all right.
We're now